for unfair hiring practices involving Black head coaches. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. This sports report was brought to you by Original Taco Pete's.
This is Aaron at Original Taco Pete's. Let us cater your Super Bowl party and future event. Call 323-348-4441 and visit us at 3272 West Slauson off Crenshaw.
What we're going to do right here is go back.
KBLA Talk 1580 is turning up the frequency in Black History Month. Be on the lookout for some familiar faces as the Metro K line is currently wrapped in KBLA Talk 1580. Make sure you visit the KBLA Talk 1580 online store, now open for business with all kinds of fresh merch. Don't miss a single episode.
Former New York prosecutor claims in a new book that Donald Trump built his empire on lies. Not surprising to hear that. Over 7,100 people are killed in a Turkey earthquake. A state of emergency has been declared after a 7.8 earthquake ripped through that country, and the cold temperatures are frustrating search efforts. U.S. and Chinese tensions are mounting as Texas Governor Greg Abbott wants a bill actually barring Chinese immigrants into the United States. He wants to bar them from buying property in the state. He says it's because of concerns about security, but Democrats are pushing back, saying this is more anti-Chinese discrimination. One of the officers in the horrific beating of Tyree Nichols, Demetrius Haley, has been discovered that he actually sent photographs of the beaten and bruised Mr. Nichols to at least 5 people, including a female acquaintance. Today, in his first State of the Union address since the GOP took the lower chamber, President Joe Biden will call for higher taxes on the wealthy and more social aid to the needy. Now, clouding Mr. Biden's message tonight will be a new special counsel investigation into the mishandling of classified documents and this fervor over a Chinese spy balloon that crossed American airspace. We know that Biden has spent weeks preparing for the State of the Union, which will be televised on all major networks tonight, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to be here on air, breaking it all down for you. You are listening to Areva Martin in real time. I'm your host, Areva Martin, right here on KBLA Talk 1580. And we have a lot to talk about. We're going to start this hour with a good friend of mine. He is now a congressman. I always want to call him mayor because he was the mayor of Long Beach, California. And he is a new Congress member. He is going to be sitting in the Capitol tonight when Joe Biden delivers this first State of the Union since the GOP has taken control of Congress. So we're going to be talking to the congressman a little later about what he expects from this State of the Union and what he's going to be looking for in particular. Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
Roundtable with Lynn Richardson is creating millionaires one family, one day, $1, one dime at a time. KBLA Talk 1580 will be celebrating Black History Month Wealth with Lynn Richardson live on Wednesday, February 22nd at the Chase Community Center on Crenshaw and Vernon in Leimert Park. Come check out the space. This location has been a bank branch for over 44 years and is now a community center. It provides resources and education to help the community with money goals, home ownership, and entrepreneurship. You and a guest can win lunch with Lynn Richardson, February 22nd. Go to KBLA1580.com or the KBLA 1580 mobile app today and register. See you there.
Here at McKay's Family Mortuary, we offer a full line of services with a fine selection of caskets and urns. Also, assistance with cemetery along with luxury limousine and funeral coaches, and other needs pertaining to your family's wishes for your loved one. We accept Veterans Victim Witness Program for mortuary services only at zero cost to you. Cemetery selection does not apply. All insurances are accepted. McKay's Funeral Home understands that saying goodbye is never easy. That's why we've been providing compassionate and professional funeral services to the community for over a decade. Please contact McKay's Family Mortuary, serving Los Angeles, San Bernardino, and Riverside counties and the high desert. 3918 Marine Avenue, Lawndale, California. 310-978-8877. That's 310-978-8877. By appointment only or log on to mckaysmortuaries.com.
As a Walgreens pharmacist, I talk with people all the time about little tips and tricks for filling their Medicare prescriptions, like taking advantage of Walgreens 90-day refills to save them a trip, or using Refill by Scan, which is super easy and right on your phone. And for anybody worried about prescription costs, I say, hey, we got you, with low-cost copays on many medications.
Let's talk about making things easier. Walgreens is here. Fill your way and save at walgreens.com/Medicare. See pharmacists for restrictions and exclusions.
The all-new Nissan Areva is a fully loaded EV. It's brimming with style and power.
Up to 389 horses of it.
Innovation and intelligence.
E-Force all-wheel drive.
It'll pin you to your seat.
Your very plush seat.
The all-new, all-electric Nissan Areva. Nissan Areva with E-Force expected availability early 2023. E-Force cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. E-Force and 389 horsepower available on Platinum Plus. Nissan calculation using 1-foot rollout testing with long-range battery. E-Force only in 4 mode with E-Step off. These results are for comparison only and should not be attempted on public roads. Drive responsibly. See nissanusa.com for details.
The way we spend our time defines who we are. You're listening to Areva Martin. Talk 15.
You are listening to Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. And I got a note from my producer that my good friend, Congress member Robert Garcia, is on the line. Hello, Congress member. I am fantastic. I know that you are just minutes away from walking into the Capitol, attending your first State of the Union address as a new Congress member from California. I have to ask you, how does it feel? You might be having some technical difficulties with the Congress member. I'm going to see if my team can work that out. In the meantime, I'm going to bring in my panel of experts. I'm joined today with Los Angeles Times columnist Gustavo Arellano, and also joining me is a professor from the University of Central Florida, Professor Larry Walker. They are here to help us break down all the trending news today. Let me know, Andy, when we can get the congressman back on, because I do want to talk to him about what it feels like to be in those chambers, all the excitement I know that must be going on. In an hour or so, Gustavo, Biden is going to stand in front of a podium and give the State of the Union, the first time he's given the Union with Kevin McCarthy sitting behind him. So what do you think? What is that going to feel like if you could put yourself in the suit of Joe Biden, knowing that Kevin is staring at your back? What do you think that's going to feel like?
Oh, he's going to throw so much shade at him because you have, the new numbers showing a huge increase in job gains. People are saying that, inflation's going to be coming down in the next couple of months. Biden's going to, of course, try to spin everything, and McCarthy and the Republicans are going to try to say, no, he's the evil one. He allowed this balloon from China to sail over the United States. Never mind that this also happened within the Trump administration. So you are going to see, I think, a triumphant Biden. He's not going to be bragging the way Trump did, the way W did, the way other presidents did, because there's still a lot of stuff. And, most importantly, of course, there is the issue of police brutality. That's literally going to be inside the U.S. Capitol chambers. So, but I still think you're going to get that old confident Joe back with the smiles and the malarkey and all that.
Well, Larry, we know that the president has been spending days. I had the privilege of sitting in on a briefing earlier today that was given by the White House. One of the senior aides to the president, as well as the second gentleman, was on the call and just briefing supporters. And no doubt, everybody knows I'm a big supporter of Joe Biden, about what we could expect tonight. What are you going to be looking for in this State of the Union that we know in many ways is more pomp and circumstance than substance?
Yeah, usually they are, but I think that, from what I've heard, I'm not a former congressional staffer, the president is going to talk about some policy issues. So my colleague just talked about the issue relating to police brutality. So I think that you've
Larry,
heard him.
let me have you hold that thought. I'm told that
Sure.
we got the congressman back. Hello, Congressman Garcia. Okay, I was told we had him back. Okay, we're gonna keep working on that. We definitely want him. We want to get that impression from him. I want to get his firsthand account of what that energy is like in the room. So production team, when he's there, let me know, because we're going to cut to him right away because it's important to hear what he has to say. Go ahead, Larry. We're going to let you finish your response.
Yeah, so in light of
okay, I think we can. Yes, thank you, Larry, for being so patient. Hey,
no problem.
Congressman Garcia, how are you? No problem. Well, first of all, congratulations. I don't know if I've seen you since you were elected into Congress. I'm still thinking of you as Mayor Garcia, but I just wanted to take a couple of minutes of your time. I know you're running into the Capitol. I know you've got to get your seat. You've got to settle in. But what is the energy like at the Capitol as everyone prepares for this State of the Union? What do you make, Congressman, of the fact that that ABC poll that came out just a day ago, maybe even yesterday, that has the president and the vice president's ratings so low, but we know that he has achieved so much in these 2 years? Is it a messaging problem? Are the Democrats not doing a good enough job of getting out what the president and vice president have accomplished in 2 years? Mm-hmm. And I'm glad to hear you say that, because I think you're right. Polling is fluid, and oftentimes, they're not talking to the same people that are going to the polls. And we know historically African Americans and Latinos are not counted in some of the polls, so the numbers are often skewed. But we do know that there are even Democrats, Congressman, who have called for a new candidate to surface for 2024. Do you think there's anything that Biden needs to do to tamp down on any notion that there should be someone other than him running in 2024? Well, thank you so much, Congressmember Garcia. I know you have to run. I know you have to get in your seat. I'm going to be watching TV to see when the camera pans to see all of my California friends. I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy to have you representing California in Congress. And I know you got elected as the president of your class. So go, Robert Garcia. Glad to have you on, and always good to see my friends doing big things. So again, thank you for joining me. All right, Larry, you heard the Congress member say, look, Biden is doing phenomenally well. We got record low unemployment. We got record creation of jobs. But I agree with him that polls aren't always accurate, but those polls, they do inform the way some people, at least in the country, are thinking. So what do you think the president really has to do to overcome this sense that, maybe he's not the guy for 2024?
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of things. The first thing I think is important, the congressman alluded to this, is you have to combat a lot of misinformation in today's society, whether it's social media or television, et cetera. So I think that's one of the challenges. And I think particularly what you saw him going out on the road essentially within the last couple of weeks and talking about a few issues. So let's talk about what has the Biden administration done over the last 2 years. So first of all, the congressman talked about this. We saw the jobs report, 517,000 jobs created. That is a massive number of jobs created in a very short period of time in terms of the January jobs report. And let's talk about the Black community. We know that in terms of the unemployment rate dropped from 6.9% to 5.4%. And the Joint Center, which is a Black think tank in DC, talked about that's a 21% drop. So that's a significant number. Now, we know racial disparities still exist, and we have to address those. But that's a tremendous drop in unemployment rate in the Black community. The other thing I want to talk about is the infrastructure bill. So once again, President Biden is going out and, I guess you can say, kind of getting a preview of what you'll see in terms of running for re-election. But he's going to places. You saw him with Senator McConnell a week or two ago. He's going out on a bipartisan basis for an infrastructure bill that was bipartisan to talk about an enormous amount of money in terms of roads and all these other issues that bridges, et cetera, that are critically important in the United States. Let's also highlight the Inflation Reduction Act, which help with issues relating to lowering prescription drug costs. So there's a number of significant things that the president can point to and say that I made these things happen. And often many of these are on a bipartisan basis.
Yeah, and I think there's some disconnect. Everything you just said, Larry, is absolutely positively true. Everything the Congress member said is absolutely positively true. But Gustavo, where is the disconnect? Because you had that ABC poll. There was also some polling recently that said Americans feel like they're doing worse off financially now than they were even a couple of years ago. So yes, we can check all these boxes of these wonderful things that the Biden administration has done, the Biden-Harris administration, but where is this big disconnect? The insiders, those of us that study politics and read the newspaper every day, we know it, but why isn't this translating?
I mean, that's the issue. The insiders, we live in a different world. We really do. And for us, things have been okay, if not even better. Some people have ended up, but you talk to people on the street. I mean, look, here in Southern California, we all know where the prices are going with natural gas, with gas for cars, with eggs. There's an egg shortage for crying out loud. So little things like that. And look, you could have all these stats, the Biden administration, and they're real. And I do think he's always been fairly in the sense he has made some gains, especially coming out of the pandemic, which is once every couple of generational things. Like, it's hard to get out of that. But the fact is, a lot of people are still living with the repercussions of that. And we're also getting over this thing that killed, gosh, I don't even know what the number is, at least over 1 million people, just America. So many people still suffering with COVID, so many people suffering from all of that. There's a lot of malaise out there. And I think this is where Biden needs to give one of those speeches that is going to, remind people, this is why we elected you. This is his possibility of, I don't know if, he does want to get people together, but at the very least, for the people who still don't think of him as this evil communist, at least say, hey, folks, I got your back. We're going to get to a better place. We've gone through a lot, but we're going to get to a better place. And this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah, definitely. He's got, I think, a lot of convincing to do. You know it, I know it, Larry knows it, but I think the average American that's watching the State of the Union tonight is going to want to be reassured that things like egg prices and gas prices are going to be coming down. They're going to be reasonable. Look, I went to the gas station the other day, spent over $100, and was shocked because I was noticing it several weeks ago, maybe even a month ago, gas prices were much lower and they started to creep back up. And there wasn't the media attention paid to the fact that gas prices were going back up, but they've been creeping up a little, which gives everyone, I think, pause and concern. What do you think, Larry? Biden has been under investigation. It's kind of he's agreed to have his home searched by the DOJ, but there is a new special counsel investigation into his mishandling of classified documents. Now, clearly, it did not take a year of the Department of Justice or the Washington Archive, Washington bureaucrats asking for presidential documents to be returned. It didn't take the FBI having to go in and raid his home the way we saw with Trump. So there are some substantive differences in the way that the documents that Trump took with him out the White House, in the way that we know Biden has discovered some classified documents at his home and at one of his offices. But for some people, all they see is Trump has a special counsel investigating him, and Biden has a special counsel investigating him. So they just say, hey, apples to apples. How important do you think that's going to be tonight as people are listening to the State of the Union?
Yeah, so I think that's an important question. So I don't think you hear him mention this at all. I don't think you'll hear him mention anything about a special counsel or anything relating to these classified documents. So let me say a couple things. I mentioned, earlier, I'm a former congressional staffer. If I had these classified documents, you would not be able to find me. Let's be clear. That's one. So secondly, there is a huge distinction between what happened with President Biden and his lawyers finding these documents and President Trump, who purposely lied. His attorneys lied. He lied. And that's why the National Archives had to let the FBI know had to raise their concerns. And that's why the FBI had to, and it's not even a raid, right? They went and got the documents that belong to the federal government. The other thing I want to highlight is, let's not forget, let's not let former Vice President Pence off the hook. So what you saw with former Vice President Pence and current President Biden is very similar. Now, those are apples to apples. Both of them individuals, not really them, but their staffers, individuals involved in working for them, found these documents and alerted authorities. That's the way this is supposed to be done. President Trump, on the other hand, has very clearly said, these are my documents. Just like he talked about the military being his military.
Is Joe Biden's appointee, Merrick Garland, who jumped out there and, in my opinion, prematurely said, I'm going to treat them apples to apples. He could have easily said, look, we're the Department of Justice. We're completely capable of handling anything that has to do with President Biden, since he's cooperating, since he's letting us come into his home, his garage, his offices. But it's his appointee that said he needs a special, or this situation requires a special counsel. I've contended from gate that Merrick Garland was one of the worst appointments ever that Joe Biden made, that he's probably a fabulous judge and should have stayed on the bench and may have been a fabulous Supreme Court justice had the Republicans not blocked him. But I think he's been a horrible attorney general. He seems to kowtow to the Republicans. He seems to be so careful, trying to be so careful to give this appearance of fairness that I think he totally overreacted in the situation. What's your take, Gustavo? Did Biden need a special counsel, given that he was cooperating with the FBI, with the Department of Justice, with the National Archives?
This is the problem with the Biden administration and a lot of his appointees, is that they try to please people who are not going to be pleased, Republicans. And it's kind of like in journalism, where you go so far to try to appear to be objective that everyone sees right through you and you mess it up for your own party. So what Biden did is the same thing that what Pence did. And what they did is like, Mistakes happen. None of us are perfect. Heaven knows politicians are perfect. What Trump did is flat out, obnoxious and belligerent, and Garland should have treated it as such. And Garland, yeah, you see these things happening again and again, and you want to talk about appearances. I mean, I still can't believe he was actually supposed to be a Supreme Court justice because he seems so meek. I understand you're supposed to be objective when it comes to, if you're a justice, you're supposed to be objective. But if you're an attorney general, you got to come.
Be a prosecutor. That's
Guns
your
of Navarone style.
Can I want to add something really here. I think it's important in terms of having this conversation about Garland. And I will admit his demeanor in press conferences is quite laid back. But I think
that's so generous of you, Ari.
I'm trying to be kind here. You never know. I want to make friends, not enemies. So it's really important to highlight that the DOJ is supposed to be nonpartisan. So I think when in terms of choosing a special counsel, this is what you call protecting your back, so to speak. Being being attorney general, it's political, but you're supposed to be nonpartisan. Let's also keep in mind the attorney general is supposed to have a term of about 6 years. So it's supposed to cross administrations, hopefully cross administrations. But choosing a special counsel from his perspective is smart politics. But you're right, you're not going to please everyone. This is a very partisan environment.
Yes, you're supposed to be nonpartisan, but you are the top cop in the country and you have a team of prosecutors and you are supposed to be able to discern when a case needs a special counsel, when it doesn't, when there's a crime being committed and when there's not a crime. And clearly there's nothing in the situation with Joe Biden that would rise to the level of any kind of criminal activity or behavior that would justify this level of scrutiny. We're going to talk about this investigation era that the Republicans say we're about to begin as they have taken control of Congress, and they're going after the Homeland Security Secretary, saying they want to impeach him. Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580, news, sports, and traffic up next.
Expect President Biden to lay out how he'll continue to deliver results for everyday Americans during his State of the Union address.
President Biden, Democrats in the House and the Senate will continue to work hard to put people over politics.
Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said Democrats have declared meaningful legislation during Biden's first 2 years as president and will continue to do so moving forward. Discipline is recommended for dozens of NYPD officers for alleged misconduct during the 2020 George Floyd protests in New York. The Civilian Complaint Review Board says 146 NYPD officers engaged in misconduct, including excessive force during those protests. Over 50 million adults are expected to bet around $16 billion on the Super Bowl. That number is roughly 20% of the U.S. population. And that is the latest. I'm Doug Davis from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
In Irwindale, we've got a signal alert 605 northbound right at Arrow Highway. Got a crash involving a big rig. The two right lanes and the Arrow on-ramp are blocked. And you've got stop traffic coming away from the 10. Also in Costa Mesa, 55 northbound, you're on the brakes from Baker Street up to about the 91. And in Sun Valley on the 5 northbound at Branford Street, got a crash blocking the left lane there.
Progressive Commercial Insurance flexes to fit your business needs, from quick repairs to adjustable coverages and even payment options. Progressive Commercial makes it easy to get what you need. Quote today in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the captain, will be at tonight's Lakers game to congratulate LeBron James if he becomes the NBA's all-time scoring leader. Jabbar has held the scoring record since 1984. LeBron needs 36 points against Oklahoma City to pass Jabbar and reach another level of greatness in his 20-year career. Congratulations to Brian Flores. He's the new defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. A year ago, during Super Bowl week here in LA, Flores filed an eye-opening lawsuit against the NFL for unfair hiring practices involving black head coaches. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. This sports report was brought to you by Original Taco Pete's.
This is Aaron at Original Taco Pete's. Let us cater your Super Bowl party and future event. Call 323-348-4441 and visit us at 3272 West Slauson off Crenshaw.
Hi, this is Tavis.
Harris, this
this is Dr. King. We've got a lot to talk about. I'll be in town on the 28th of February. Can you clear your calendar?
Absolutely, Dr. King. Good Lord, do I have some questions for you, sir. Hi, it's Tavis.
Assalamu alaikum, my brother. This is Minister Malcolm. Now, I heard that you and Martin are getting together for a public dialogue on February 28th. You see, now I already know the date. Now, I know y'all not trying to keep me out of that conversation, are you?
No, sir. No, sir.
What happened to George Floyd shouldn't happen, not even to a dog. How long must the Negro continue to endure this foolishness at the hands of law enforcement? People can take but so much before they reach a breaking point. What do you mean, Black Lives Matter? Black lives haven't mattered in this country since Negroes stopped working for free at the end of slavery. You ought to be talking about Black Guns Matter and start your own NRA. Call it the Negro Revolutionary Amalgamation.
This is compelling historic radio event. The Return. When Tavis Smiley converses with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. Tuesday, February 28th, 9 a.m. Pacific Time, exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's the 31st Annual Pan-African Film and Arts Festival, February 9th through February 20th at the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza and Baldwin Hills Cinemark Theaters. Experience a new story of imagination at PAF 2023 Reimagined. For over 30 years, PAF has been the international beacon for the African diaspora film and arts communities, and this year is truly amazing. We're showcasing over 200 new Black films from across the U.S., Africa, the Caribbean, South America, Europe, the South Pacific, Canada, and Asia. We feature panels, showcases, discussions, and so much more with top industry professionals, filmmakers, and others. Visit PAF.org for a schedule of films and events. PAF opening kicks off with a screening of Chevalier, the story of the Black Mozart set in 18th century France, starring Kelvin Harris Jr. This star-studded event will be at the Directors Guild Thursday, February 9th, and tickets are on sale now. Visit PAF.org for all film times. That's PAFF.org. The 31st Annual Pan-African Film and Arts Festival is brought to you by Stalker Street Creative, Gilead, the LA County Arts and Culture Department, LA Arts Recovery Grant, and Baldwin Hills Crenshaw.
Let's get back to business, Los Angeles County. The Economic Opportunity Grant Program is now open. This program is designed to provide financial support to qualified small businesses, micro entrepreneurs, food industry businesses such as restaurants, and nonprofits in Los Angeles County. Approximately 4,600 grants of up to $2,500 each will be administered to qualified micro businesses that face barriers to accessing capital resources. To learn more about the Economic Opportunity Grant Program, visit www.grants.lacounty.gov. The application process is fast and easy. Don't miss the opportunity to get back to business. This program is administered by the County of Los Angeles through its Department of Economic Opportunity and funded in part through a grant from the California Office of the Small Business Advocate. The application portal is powered by Lindustry. Visit www.grants.lacounty.gov and get back to business.
The Los Angeles Urban League and Parkside EDC will help you make more with what you have on Thursday, February 9th at 6 p.m. Register for this free workshop now at laul.org/BWAARP.
For Black History Month, AARP honors leaders who go above and beyond to help the Black community thrive. These heroic leaders prioritize the well-being of their neighborhoods by giving back through education, housing assistance, community outreach, and more. One person's efforts can truly make an impact. But when our efforts unite for the greater good, we all thrive together. To learn more about local leaders helping their communities thrive, visit aarp.org/Black community.
You are listening to Areva Martin in real time. I'm your host, Areva Martin, and we are tracking the latest news and bringing you expert analysis and unfiltered opinions. I'm joined today by my contributors, Gustavo Arellano. He is an LA Times columnist, and Dr. Larry Walker is a professor in Florida. And we've been talking some about Florida because when you think about who's going to be running in 2024, Professor Dr. Larry Walker, your governor, DeSantis, his name comes up over and over again as being the person that could beat Donald Trump. What are you all thinking in Florida about DeSantis and him running for president and the chances of him being able to galvanize the base that's been so loyal to Trump, that Republican base?
Yeah, so obviously he's been raising money for more than a year now. He's raised millions of dollars in terms of his war chest. But my personal opinion, I think that President Trump and DeSantis are going to kind of cancel each other out, or as I described someone recently, they're going to cannibalize each other, right? They're going to come after each other. And you have already seen the silent war, a bit of a silent war up until the last couple of weeks, when they've been both mention each other specifically in their conversations and speeches. But I think that it is likely that Trump still wins the presidency, strictly because he already has served
the presidency
president.
as in beats Joe Biden.
Well, I'm sorry. Let me
Let me
clarify that. I misspoke. Win the Republican nomination. Let me offer some clarification. I know people are panicking right now, so let me step. Thank you for the moment of clarification. I think Trump still wins the nomination because, once again, being an incumbent, he's former president. Obviously, President Biden is president now, but I think that still works into his advantage. And I think that also because of the platform he's had now, he doesn't have a social media platform, but he still has the ability to go to certain individuals to raise money. And if you look at the poll numbers, DeSantis has closed the gap there, but I think we get closer to 2020 next year. I think you'll see that gap between him and former President Trump. I think you'll see that gap widen, in my opinion.
Gustavo, there is a new book out from one of the former prosecutors who was in the New York District Attorney's office. He was investigating Donald Trump and the many ways that Donald Trump perhaps had committed a crime. And he said that Donald Trump's entire empire was built on lies. We know that Donald Trump is being investigated by the district attorney in Georgia for violating their voting laws, for trying to pressure those voting officials in Georgia to find him those 11,000 votes. We know that there is this special counsel looking at him, removing those records, intentionally removing those confidential presidential records from the White House. With all of these legal issues hanging over former President Trump and folks coming out like this prosecutor saying, look, I got the goods, I got the evidence, I saw it firsthand. How is it that Trump could still beat DeSantis in a Republican primary? And what do you make? And as you think about that, think about Pence, think about Nikki Haley, and think about Mike Pompeo.
Well, the problem that all of those candidates have is that if they just go for the base, in other words, the rock rib conservatives, they're going to cannibalize off of each other. And just like Dr. Larry said, and Trump, I still think Trump gets the majority of it. I think what DeSantis, Haley, Pompeo, no one cares about Pompeo. Maybe Pence, because he could go for the evangelical base, which is still very prominent. And they would rather go for a true evangelical like Pence than someone like Trump. But they have to reach out to the disaffected conservatives who want nothing to do with Trump. And they also have to get some of those, whatever you want to call them, Reagan Democrats, Trump Democrats, whatever. But the people who left Trump once Joe Biden came into office are not happy with Biden. But that's a problem. I don't any of them want to do that. DeSantis would probably be the best one because Florida does, it is a red state, but it has big pockets of blue. But no, he has called himself the head of the state where woke went to die. That's not how it goes. That's not how you're going to get other people.
Goes to die. LGBTQ community goes to die. Black history
ethnic studies.
Goes to die. Everything dies in Florida. Disney.
Yeah, no,
Dr.
all of this.
Walker,
no one's gonna out Trump. That's what they're gonna face, and that's the thing. Trump has lost the popular vote twice, and he lost, one because of Electoral College, and the other one lost it. But do you really want to out Trump? That's not a winning equation.
Well, we heard the Congressman Robert Garcia say that there's no one as unpopular as congressional Republicans. And we know that they have vowed to just investigate the United States government. They're going to investigate the FBI, all of law enforcement, all of federal law enforcement, and they're going after the Homeland Security Secretary. I mean, they vowed to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas, claiming that he has lied about the border being secure, saying that he's unfit to serve as the Homeland Security Secretary. What do you make, Larry, of this recipe? What I think is a recipe for a formula for failure by the Republicans, but they are dead set on all of these investigations, and particularly as it relates to the border and the immigration crisis. Do you think this is a winning formula? Is this going to help them in the polls in 2024?
No, and they're behind. That's why they didn't have the kind of gains they expected just a few weeks ago. So I think there are a few things that are really important. Listen, the Secretary of Homeland Security is low-hanging fruit. Most Americans don't even know who that is. So that's just a bad political policy. The other thing is,
but let me stop you. They may not know who he is, but they keep feeding their base this notion that all of these immigrants are coming into the country, they're flooding the country, and they're taking benefits away from hardworking Americans. So he's become like the boogeyman, even though you may not know his name.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. But focusing on someone, like I said, that most people can't even recognize, I don't think it's a winning strategy. The topic itself, the issue itself, is something the Republicans have been talking about for decades. So this idea that the America is being invaded, air quotes, is something that's not new. It's more in terms of racial identity politics. It's not anything new. But I think there's a couple things that are really important. He's only been on the job for about a year. I think that's the first thing. So he didn't even have time to breathe.
Who cares about that,
furniture?
They want you to come in and change the world in a day.
Listen, his furniture is not even that old. So I think that's one of the important things to keep in mind. I think the other thing as it relates to this particular issue is there's been failed Republican and Democrat policies as it comes to immigration. We can solve the immigration issue, including, as you hear people with Democrats and Republicans talk about securing the border, and have a fair immigration policy for those who are already here, who are undocumented. If Republicans wanted to, this is once again, it's been going on for decades, but once again, they have to appeal to their base and those who care about identity politics instead of focusing what's important for Americans.
Gustavo, real quickly, do you think Biden should hit the immigration note hard in tonight's State of the Union?
He's not going to touch it. No, he's not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole. No one does. I mean, I maintain, and I told this to my liberal friends back in the 2000s, the best person that you could possibly have to try to pass any sort of amnesty was George W. Bush. He was a border president. He was a head of the governor of Texas. His nieces are half Mexican because his sister-in-law is Mexicana. And of course, the Republicans sabotaged that. They're like, no, it's amnesty, blah, 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 blah. So Biden didn't say anything. Sadly, Biden will probably talk about the border, but he's not going to please, again, going back to what I said earlier, he's not going to please Republicans, and he's only going to anger Democrats. So if Biden was smart, he'd be away from it as all. Victories. There has been no victories at the border at all.
Yeah, unfortunately, they gave that portfolio to my good friend, our Vice President Kamala Harris, and it's just a problem that is not solvable because there's not the will to solve it, not because it's impossible to solve, but we don't have the will in this country to solve it. And too many people benefit from immigrants, but yet they also want to use them as the target of their vitriol. When we come forward, we're going to talk about what other topics Biden should stay away from in the State of the Union. Is coming on tonight at 8 p.m. EST. Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580.
Smith and Martin Lawrence confirm Bad Boys 4 is in the works. Maisha Cairo here with your K-Black Minute News, brought to you by Lindustry. The film Bad Boys 4, Bad Boys for Life, is in pre-production. Take a listen to the viral announcement by Will Smith and Martin Lawrence themselves.
It's about that time.
It's about that time.
It's official, y'all.
Y'all know what it is, right?
It's official. Bad Boys for Life, baby.
I'm Maisha Cairo, and that's your K-Black Minute News.
Thanks to our new sponsor, Lindustry. Lindustry is a national Black-led small business lender that is headquartered in Los Angeles. Lindustry helps small business owners access the affordable capital needed to grow. Visit Lindustry, LENDISRY.com/KBLA today.
Fred Hines was an African-American blacksmith when he started at LADWP in 1968. After a long 30-year career of public service, he enjoyed the fruits of his labor in retirement. Today, Utility Executive Secretary LaTanya Bogan serves as the Retirement Board President, overseeing the retirement funds for more than 20,000 LADWP employees and retirees. She promotes the financial security of LADWP employees and their families. As LADWP celebrates Black History Month, they proudly highlight the excellent work and exemplary leadership of Black employees who work hard to serve you. Visit them online at joinladwp.com.
Central Neighborhood Health Foundation is a full-service network of federally qualified health care centers that serves local communities throughout Los Angeles, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties. CNHF clinics provide low-cost to no-cost, compassionate, comprehensive, quality health care, which includes primary care services for chronic disease and diabetes management, pediatric and women's services, preventive care, vision and dental screenings, COVID-19 testing and vaccines, flu vaccines, behavioral health, HIV, and substance use services. Virtual telehealth visits are available from the comfort of your home with highly qualified physicians and medical professionals. CNHF also provides peer support specialist training and help with housing navigation. Central Neighborhood Health Foundation. Your wellness is our priority. Comprehensive care built on trust and respect. For more information, visit cnhfclinics.org or call 213-536-5815 today to locate a clinic near you.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a whole lot to talk about.
Hi, Maisha Cairo here, KBLA, live at Chase Bank on Crenshaw and Vernon for the In This Together tour with female business owners, a day of empowerment, community panels, and best of all, tips on building business from marketing to capital. Today, I spoke with Tatiana, a community manager for JP Morgan Chase.
Thank you so much. Yes, my name is Tatiana Roberts. I am a community manager for JP Morgan Chase. I have to honestly say that this has been the most fulfilling position that I've ever had, where I get to give back to the community because I saw my mom's struggles. That's really what fuels what I do to make sure that that the community has all the access to the resources that my mother didn't have.
So for the mother who's in business, what are 3 quick tips you can give to ensure that they're on the right path to accessing financial support from a bank like Chase?
Say number 1, just make sure that you're checking your credit on a consistent basis and taking action to either fix your credit, maintain your credit, or rebuild your credit. The second thing would be budget. I know that B word is kind of like ugly for, right? A lot of people don't like that B word, but it has to be done. We need to tell our money where to go. The last thing is to build a network of supporters that are going to lift you up.
The community building here in Crenshaw is that network. So visit the Chase Community Center on Crenshaw and Vernon. Meet a banker today. Tell them about your business. I'm Maisha Cairo in the community for KBLA with JP Morgan Chase.
I'm back, and I'm joined today in this first hour by joined with Dr. Larry Walker. He is a professor at the University of Central Florida and LA columnist Gustavo Arellano. And we've been tracking the latest news, and the biggest news of the evening is the State of the Union, which is going to take place in just a couple of minutes. We were talking about immigration being a topic that Joe Biden would probably stay away from. Any other predictions about topics that aren't likely to come up in tonight's State of the Union? What are you thinking, Larry, about that?
Well, I don't know about topics that won't, but I'll tell you one topic that I think whatever heard he needs that is controversial, but he needs to talk about, and that's police reform. So we didn't get passage of the George Floyd Policing Act, but like I said, we saw recently Vice President Harris at the funeral. But I think even though it's a controversial topic and a lot of Americans don't want to hear about it, he's going to talk about it, and he must talk about it, because it's an issue we know as African Americans and from the Latino community. This is decades of issues relating to police brutality and misconduct. So people won't want to hear about it, but he is going to talk about it.
How does he do that, Gustavo, without going back, where we were a year ago when everybody was like, defund the police, and Democrats were running around with their hair on fire, and Clyburn was admonishing everyone to stop using the sloganism, as he called it. So how does the president talk about police reform without getting that defund jacket that Democrats thought was, so detrimental?
Probably going to say what he said in the past, that we need more oversight, that we need more laws, that we need to, he's going to give a shout out to police. He is not anti-police. So he's going to say something about, probably not use the cliche of bad apples, but basically say, look, like, he's probably going to argue that in this case, the justice system, well, they haven't been convicted. They've been charged. So they haven't been convicted or anything, but he'll say that law enforcement is doing, or justice is doing what it's supposed to do. And we just need to be monitoring more than anything. That's not going to, again, he's not going to please anyone tonight. That's my prediction. He's just not going to please anyone, although he's going to try. And I think it's unfair if people are going to be harsher on him than they should.
Yeah, I think the reform language without some concrete things other than training on implicit bias and more funding for the police so they can do community policing, some of those things that people have said, we heard these things over and over and over again. We heard them after George Floyd, and now here we are with Tyree Nichols. So you're right, Gustavo. He's not going to please anyone when he talks about police reform. He's definitely not going to please anyone when he talks about immigration reform. Maybe he'll please middle class people when he talks about raising taxes on the wealthy and making sure that Social Security and Medicare are not cut, because we've heard a lot of rumblings from the Republicans that they want to reduce the deficit by cutting Social Security and Medicare. And I know from my preview call that I was on earlier, the president's going to be adamant about not making cuts to Social Security and Medicare. And in fact, he's going to talk about increasing resources and benefits to those in need. How will that go over, Larry, when he starts talking about raising taxes? Taxes can be one of those issues that can cause someone to win or lose in a big election.
It depends on how he frames it. For instance, he can make the argument that we cut taxes for the rich during the Trump administration and it increased the debt. So I think you have to be very, very clear. So if we cut taxes, we're cutting taxes for middle class and underserved Americans, just like they did with child care tax credit. We saw a correlation between that and the drop in the poverty rate in the United States. So he's got to be very concrete in the language he's using, and hopefully his speech writers get it right tonight.
Little inside information, you're going to hear a lot about that child tax credit tonight. That's a big part of the Biden administration. Hey, before I let you all go, I got to play a little State of the Union Jeopardy with you. Got to ask you a couple of questions, see how up you are on your State of the Union. First question, which president first used the word abortion in their State of the Union address?
Oh, Carter?
Bill Clinton?
No. Both of you got that wrong.
What?
Ronald Reagan, 1984.
Ronald Reagan. Okay, that makes sense.
Keep moving.
Yeah.
Which president first used the word astronaut in their State of the Union?
Kennedy?
Johnson.
No. Come on, guys. Dwight
Kennedy?
Eisenhower, 1960.
Eisenhower. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Which
so that's
president
Sputnik.
first used the word loser?
It has to be Trump.
Yeah,
I'm
I
gonna give
would
you
go
a
with that.
pass on that because that was my guess, but I was wrong. You're wrong. It was actually Richard Nixon in 1971.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was talking about himself then, I guess.
Absolutely. First president to use the term bioterrorism.
Bush Jr.
Okay.
Yeah, you beat me to it.
Bush. All right. Last
I was going to say
question.
Teddy Roosevelt.
This is an easy one. This is just, you guys will hit this right out the park. First president to use the term transgender.
Biden. No, Obama. Obama.
Okay. Obama, please.
Obama. Yeah.
And that was in 2015. Obama
Wow.
used the term transgender. I find the State of the Union so fascinating because, as we know, it's a lot of pomp and circumstance.
Yeah.
A lot of people watch it just to see the reactions of the Congress people, their faces, and who's smiling and who's frowning, who's falling asleep. Who stands up and claps, who sits there with a frown on their face. And it's going to be interesting because the last State of the Union, we had 2 women, first time in history, sitting behind the president as he gave that speech. That dais is going to look a little different tonight. And Kevin McCarthy, any predictions about, is he going to stand up and clap? And if so, what issue?
I don't think he stands up at all unless, like we said, he brings up something immigration and takes a far right, which I don't think is happening. So I think that overall, you cannot expect McCarthy to stand up because if he does, he's going to look weak in terms of his caucus.
He stands
so you
up
think the
when
whole
they come
night,
in.
He says he doesn't stand on anything, like even when he talks about veterans or things that typically Republicans agree on?
No, because if he does, though, some of his people in his own caucus will use it against him that very same night.
What about heckling? We've seen some presidents, Obama and even Biden last year, get heckled. Any predictions, Gustavo, on heckling?
Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think there's an over-under on her of how many times she heckles, not whether she heckles.
Okay, our bets are on Marjorie Taylor Greene and how many times. I want to thank both of you. Thank you so much, Gustavo Arellano, LA Times columnist. Make sure you check out his column. And thank you to Dr. Larry Walker. He is a professor at the University of Central Florida. We're not holding that against him tonight. He's not responsible for the ridiculous politics of his governor. He is, what'd you tell me? You are part of the resistance movement.
Part of the resistance. Yeah.
Part of the resistance. And we love it. I want to thank you both for joining me in this hour and helping us play State of the Union Jeopardy. Go study some of those terms used by the presidents in those State of the Unions. So when I have you back, you'll get more of those questions correct. But again, thanks to you. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to be talking more about this State of the Union. I got a political comedian coming on to help us make light of this, to have some levity with respect to the State of the Union. Then a veteran political analyst talking about the importance of the guests that have been invited. News, traffic, and sports up next. KBLA Talk 1580.